Go ahead and get started. Get started here, and I'm far enough away that I can take this mask off. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Rec Innovation Lab. Welcome especially to our very special guest today, Sanchez, who is a renowned journalist, I'm sure, as you all know, and she's been a supporter of the Rec Innovation Lab. She's been just so helpful with our getting our startup founders more exposure. She's I don't know if you've all seen some of her work. She's written for KPBS, for 10 News, for was with the Business Journal. I think we were connected from a mutual acquaintance at the San Diego Business Journal. I've seen you just so many places. Writing and sharing stories, and so everyone's really excited to have you here today, Hua. So welcome to all of the student founders here in the room and everybody who's here on campus as well. And what we're going to do now is we will go ahead and I'll have you share your screen, Hua, if you wouldn't mind. And then we can, we can get going. So if anybody has any questions along the way, just please do put those questions into the chat. We'll monitor that as we go. And as soon as we have a little break, we can get some of those questions addressed. Any questions, Hua, for me about logistics or anything else?
No, I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for squeezing me in on a busy graduation day. It looks like you're having fun over there.
We are. It's perfect timing though, because as a lot of the students are graduating and others are just finishing up the semester, they really need to get the word out about their startups, about the businesses that they've been working on. So this is going to be very, very helpful for everyone. Thank you.
I'm glad.
Yes. So if you want to share your screen, you should be able to now. And perfect. It looks like perfect. Okay, wonderful. So I'm going to go ahead then and turn off my video and microphone, and then just turn it on over to take all of us through this process. Is there anything though that you needed at all from me? Maybe any?
I don't think so.
Okay, perfect. If you need anything along the way, let me know. I know we have several of the startup founders have their information on over to you, and they're excited to help if you need it.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tanya, for inviting me to speak to the Rec Center. I'm so excited to be here. As Tanya mentioned, I was a longtime journalist. I worked in the journalism industry for about 15 years before I transitioned to PR. And I've been working with a handful of local companies. Now I work for Plug Power, a green hydrogen company, with our corporate PR marketing department. And I'm so excited. I'm going to briefly go over how to write a press release, and then I'm going to give you examples of some of the press releases I've written for clients. And then I did 2 sample press releases for 2 of the startups from the Rec, and we can go over all of that. So first of all, before you even sit down and write a press release, I want you to really think about what is newsworthy about your business, because the reality is simply saying that you started a business is not newsworthy. You have to be solving a problem, you have to be hitting a milestone, or there has to be some other element that can tell a compelling story. So for example, did you just raise $20 million in like 2 months? Were you just on Shark Tank? Are you a total rags to riches story where you completely broke a month ago, and now you're running a successful $1 million business? Those are the elements that would make a story truly newsworthy. And I say that because you have to keep in mind that journalists receive hundreds, sometimes thousands of pitches a day. So you need a headline, a story that's really going to grab a reporter's attention because they receive so many pitches a day. Sorry about that. Next, you want to determine who you want to pitch your story to. Who are the reporters out there that you've been keeping an eye on that you think will really find your story interesting? If your business is helping entrepreneurs, you're not going to pitch a reporter who covers education or healthcare. You're going to pitch the reporter who covers startups, who cares about startups. If you're from the city of Riverside, you want to pitch your story to the Riverside journalists because they can resonate with your story as a local. Once you determine what is newsworthy about your business and who you want to pitch your story to, you can start to write, you can sit down and start to write your press release. And with the press release, just like with any other storytelling process, you want to start with the catchiest part at the very beginning. So you want to write a catchy headline that basically summarizes what this whole press release is about. And if you think about, when you pick up a newspaper or when you watch the news, you really most readers only read that first headline or that first paragraph because they're on the go. They don't have the time to sit down and read a 1,000 word story. So think about that when you write your headline. Summarize exactly what is going on in that headline. And then you want to elaborate a little bit on that lead. And in journalism talk, we spell lead L-E-D-E. And it's that first paragraph that tells the reporter what is going on. It covers the 5 W's and the H. So it tells you, what the story is, who's involved in the story, how it got to this place. And then you get into the body of story, which elaborates on the 5 W's and that H. So then you talk about, when this business was founded, how many employees you have, how you got to this milestone or this newsworthy moment. And then you can also include some quotes to give it some color. So you would want to quote like the CEO, the founders, maybe a customer whose life was completely changed by your product or your business, to give the reporter a sense of the impact that your business has made. And then finally, at the end, you want to include contact information for the reporter. And you want to keep it nice and simple because you don't want to make anything difficult for the reporter. In PR, there's a saying that you want to hand everything to a journalist on a silver platter to try to get them to cover your story. So you don't want to make anything too difficult. Give them, the website, all the background information on your company, how to get a hold of you directly, and how to get a hold of any of your customers who may be willing to do an interview. Finally, you want to keep your press release completely simple. And I would recommend just copying and pasting your press release into the email of the document rather than include it as an attachment. Because for the reporter who is getting hundreds of emails, you don't want to open up hundreds of attachments. You just want to click on that email, see what the story is, and get to the point. And don't use any fancy fonts or colors or anything like that in a press release. Don't even include an image. Just get straight to the point. So those are my basic bullets for writing a press release. So I'm going to give you examples of some press releases that I wrote for clients. So the first one is something that I wrote for the Metropolitan Transit District, which is the public transit system in San Diego. So a couple of years ago, they announced that they were ramping up service on the Blue Line. So if you look at the headline right here, MTS ramps up UC San Diego Blue Line trolley service to accommodate growing ridership. You can see that we get straight to the point. We're just announcing that we're ramping up service. It's the Blue Line. So a reporter knows exactly what trolley line we're talking about. And the answer is the why, to accommodate the growing ridership. And then the subheadline, we say exactly what it is. The Blue Line is going to start running every 7.5 minutes every weekday and then 15 minutes on the weekends. We get straight to the point. In that lead paragraph, we're saying it's the Blue Line trolley, which connects to the San Ysidro International border all the way to downtown. And it's going to start running from 4:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. every 15 minutes. So we get straight to the point. And then that second paragraph, we're elaborating about why this is all happening. This is happening because ridership has grown from 15 million riders annually to 18 million annually. And I really like this sentence because it offers a factual piece of information to really tell that story. It includes numbers. It gets straight to the point. We're not just saying that we've increased riders annually. We're saying exactly how many more riders are jumping onto the trolley line every single day. And that's why we've had to increase ridership. So again, we get into more numbers. We talk about how much we spent because any dollar figure can really make a story newsworthy. And then we get into a quote, which is right here. At the time, it was Supervisor Nathan Fletcher. And we also quote down here the CEO of MTS. So as we scroll down the press release, we include more basic information about what the Blue Line Trolley is, what riders can expect from the service booths, and then we get into a summary of a very short 1-paragraph summary about what MTS is. It operates 95 bus routes in San Diego from all the 10 different cities, including the unincorporated areas of the county. And then we include a website link. For more information, go to sdmts.com. So it's very straight to the point. It gives you lots of color and it gives you lots of numbers to run with. So here is another press release. So this is a press release that I did for Red Door Interactive, which is a local marketing firm based in San Diego. A couple years ago, they announced that they were buying land in Sherman Heights. They were moving from downtown San Diego to Sherman Heights, which is considered an economic opportunity zone. That means that the federal government is offering a tax incentive for any businesses moving to this area. So, and that is what I summarize in this press release. So in the very beginning, I say leading San Diego marketing agency announces bold move to Sherman Heights. I wanted to write that this was a leading company, that's a well-known company. And then I also wanted to say it was a very bold move because they went from a busy downtown to where a lot of businesses reside to Sherman Heights, a sleepy San Diego neighborhood that has really struggled economically. And then in my lead, I get into about what Red Door Interactive is. It's a national marketing firm and they're moving to Sherman Heights. Second paragraph, I give more information. They're moving with their more than 80 employees and they started 18 years ago in downtown, but decided to move because they kept growing. And then I include a quote from the CEO to get more background information. I include a little bit of praise from Councilmember Vivian Moreno, whose district this is. And then I include another quote from the CEO of the Economic Development Corporation. So to include all these quotes, it's telling the reporter that other people are paying attention to this move, including a politician. So this move is really significant for the San Diego economy, for the San Diego businesses. And then at the very end, I include that 1 paragraph about what Red Door Interactive is, and I include a link to their website for more information. So those are the samples from press releases that I wrote for clients. And I know Crystal sent me links to videos that some of you made for your businesses. I did look at 2 of the videos and I drafted sample press releases based on those videos. So I immediately clicked on the I Am Confident Foundation link because that name really stood out to me. And then watching that video and
that's so awesome. You didn't hear it in here, but everybody cheered.
Yay, I am confident.
Good job.
So I looked up, I watched the video and I also looked up I'm Confident on LinkedIn and Google. And I put together a press release based on the information that I found. So forgive me if anything is incorrect. This is what I found.
This is
so
great.
For my headline, I wrote, California mother and daughter team launches mental health app for teens. So in reading about the I Am Confident Foundation, what really stood out to me as a former journalist was that this is a mother and daughter team. This isn't just, a random nonprofit that was started by somebody, but this was a mother and daughter team who really wanted to join forces to make an impact. And then in my subhead, I explained where the app is coming from. It's a part of the I Am Confident Foundation organization committed to preventing teen suicide. And then in my lead, I write, a California mother and daughter team who co-founded an organization committed to preventing teen suicides announced Friday the creation of a free app that will allow users to access more than 150 resources. And so when I watched the video, what stood out to me, other than it was a mother and daughter team, was that this app would include more than 150 resources. And I'm not sure if the app is free. I just threw that in because I think that would be newsworthy. But then I get into the background of the app.
It is free. It is free.
Okay, awesome. So then I get into the background of the app. It was created by Farron J. Littleton and her mother, Yolanda Woodward, who co-founded the I Am Confident Foundation. And it's an on-demand resource that's completely free for teenagers looking for support in areas such as depression, anxiety, and then I wrote fill in the blanks. So you can add what else, what other challenges you might be addressing. I include a quote from Littleton. I add a little more information, and then I have the suggestion here to add more detail to the story, add statistics about the problem. So tell me more about the problems that teens are facing. How bad is teen suicide? How many teens are thinking or having suicidal thoughts? Because then it tells the reporter, like, this is a very important story to address. And this nonprofit is working with, doctors and psychologists around the clock trying to solve this problem. And then I go into more detail about the foundation itself. I say it offers more than 1,000 resources to young adults. Since its founding, the foundation has supported more than X number of teens around the world. And then I include another quote at the very end. I offer contact information for anyone who might want to download the app or get in contact with the foundation itself. Okay.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Awesome. So the other sample press release that I wrote a sample on, and again, this isn't true or it could be true soon. I did something for Monkey See Do. And so based off the video and based off the website, I see, yeah, it's also an eye-catching business name. So based off the video and based off the website, I see that it's a platform that helps small businesses and entrepreneurs. So for me, what would be newsworthy about this business is that if it were to hit a milestone, say it raised $50 million or $10 million or $5 million for local businesses, that would be a milestone worth publicizing or worth telling a reporter about. So you can see that I detail all of that in the lead sentence, and then I elaborate about what the platform is. Monkey See Do is founded by San Diego and Diana Hurst, who wanted to help entrepreneurs and small businesses succeed, particularly during COVID, when nearly 1/3 of American businesses closed. So I include a little statistic about why this is also noteworthy. It's noteworthy because 1/3 of American businesses closed. And then I link to that source. So the reporter can click on it and be like, oh yeah, this was a totally reliable source. This is good information that I can include in my story myself. And then I have a quote from Hertz right here. And then I have the suggestion to elaborate on the problems that startups face. And this is where you can include more statistics, about how many businesses actually survive that first year? How much money are entrepreneurs losing each year just because they don't have the support that Monkey See Do offers? And then we can also add like a personal element about why this mission is so important to Diana. Maybe it's because she saw a family member or friend struggle with their own business. Maybe she had a business herself and she didn't, have a resource like Monkey See Do around to help her business thrive. And then going back to, let's say, we're publicizing that Monkey See Do helped, 20 businesses raise $50 million. We can bullet point the list of businesses that are on the platform that have benefited from Monkey See Do, and we can also link to those businesses as well. And we can also include quotes from some of the customers who are on this platform and who have really experienced that impact. And then I end it with, for more information, go to monkeyseedo.com. So I include everything in a really tight press release, but with all the facts and all the information there. So those are the things, those are the sample press releases that I've made. And as I mentioned to Tanya, I'd be more than happy to, well, first of all, I can send these documents over to you for Monkey See Do, and I Am Confident to fill in.
Please, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd be more than happy to, work with some of you one-on-one on any press releases that you're writing yourself. If you want to send me something to edit, more than happy to look at that. In the meantime, any questions? I know I talk really fast too.
No, that was absolutely great. Angela, can you help me with the volume over here? I just have a little bit of an echo. So there are a few questions from the students in here. That was just such a helpful workshop. Those were so many great topics, but I want to make sure that that we have a chance. So Yolanda or Farron, did either of you have direct questions for her while she's in the room about the process, about patch pitching? I'll repeat it. So, okay. So yeah, so her question is what's the best way to get this out? Is it something that you think that she should do an email blast to as many as possible, or it should be tailored to each specific person with their information addressed to them in the email, or another way?
Yeah, so I would send reporters the press release individually and really tailor that first message. And I can also send you samples of some of the pitches that I've received. And I would get personal about it. You know, for example, you know, let's say you want to, what's the name of a famous reporter? What's the name of like a famous reporter on like the Today Show or something? I don't really watch TV news.
Yeah, I don't know.
But let's say that you want to contact Oprah.
Bearhart.
Let's say
Barbara Walters.
Barbara
Walters. Okay, so I don't think she's active anymore, right? But okay, let's say Barbara Walters is active and she's active on Twitter or whatever, you know. Let's tailor your personal message to her. So you're going to send her the press release, and before you get into the press release, you're going to be like, hey, Barbara, you know, I see that you're in New York City for the weekend. How cool. Like, you know, my favorite restaurant is this Chinese restaurant. You should totally hit it up. I know that you're on vacation right now, but I wanted to send you this press release. I wanted to, you know, share with you some information about my business because I think it would really stand out to you. Any sort of way that you can really tailor your message to the individual, it's going to make them stand. It's going to make your message stand out, and it's also going to compel them to actually respond to you, right? Because when I get an automated email blast, it's just like the newsletters that you sign up for. How many of you guys sign up for a ton of newsletters and then you just automatically delete them before you even click on them?
It's just advertising.
Yeah. So if you're getting an e-blast, you're not going to really click on it. But if I see in that first little sentence that, oh my gosh, you thought my tweet was funny, I'm going to respond to you. And I'm going to acknowledge that I received your press release, and I'm going to thank you for at least sending it over. So any way that you can acknowledge or make a personal connection with the reporter is important.
I agree. That's such great advice. I know personally that anytime I actually connected, and even if it's just a mutual connection that we have, that it's far reaching, it's anything is better than a cold sort of blast to everyone. So I think that's a really, really great advice. In fact, there was another question in the chat about that. Is there a place like you can get distribution lists to send these to, or but I personally wouldn't recommend that strategy. I don't know. Do you agree on that?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't recommend a distribution list at all. Again, I would tailor my my pitches to specific reporters. And so, like, let's go back to the I Am Confident Foundation. You're going to target reporters who are covering mental health, who are passionate about that subject. Maybe you're going to target, you know, reporters who are also parents of children or teenagers, so that the story will really resonate with them. Or maybe I think I saw that Farron is from Riverside or somewhere in Southern California. So maybe it's targeting a reporter who's from your town or from your neighborhood and be like, hey, we went to the same high school together. Like, I would love to share with you like what I'm doing post graduation.
Right.
I started this nonprofit. So you really want to tailor your pitches. I don't think large distribution lists work, and I think they're a waste of money.
Agreed. And I know we always are telling the entrepreneurs that, you know, entrepreneurship is in essence, it's sales, but you're selling yourself and your idea, and people need to like you. You need to make connections with people. So I always recommend for everything that they lean on their network. And so I'm glad. I love it when other people say the same thing that I say. You know, backwards and front, right? So wonderful. We do have some other questions in the chat. I want to give precedence, though, if anybody wanted to actually ask out a question out loud, you can turn on your camera and microphone to do that. Or if not, like I said, you can put them in the chat. Do we have any live questions? If not, I'll start reading some of the chat questions.
I got a question. Although,
Hi,
Tommy, were you you're muted if you were trying to talk.
oh, am I unmuted now?
Oh,
No, you're
Sorry,
good.
I think it was us. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So I did have a quick question. It was fascinating to see examples of these because my first thought was, um, I was under the impression that a press release would be more like you trying to frame the story in a certain way to make it compelling. But it seemed to me like reading your examples, like you did very little framing. You just kind of gave the facts and kind of were more like, hey, here's some raw material that you reporters can come frame and tell a story about. So I guess also you didn't seem to do as much like emotional kind of compelling elements as I thought. It was much more factual than I thought it was going to be. So I guess my question would be, from a strategic standpoint, do you think it's better to offer a frame to interpret the story, or leave it kind of just the facts and give it to reporters so that they can offer a frame for, yeah.
So I guess in my opinion, I try to be factual because I know reporters want to get straight to the point. They don't want the fluff, right? They want to add their own fluff. They want to decide what angle they're going to run with, but you can also offer angles. So again, back to the I Am Confident Foundation, which is apparently now my favorite business coming out of the rec. Back to the I Am Confident Foundation. The part that stood out to me was the California mother and daughter angle, right? And maybe that stood out to me because I'm a mom, right? But it's that California mother and daughter angle. But a reporter can look at this and be like, no, the angle that I'm going to run with is that, 5% of teens have suicidal thoughts at some point in their lives, during high school or whatever. That could be the angle that they decide to run with. So yeah, I mean, I think in the press release, you can keep it factual, but then when you send that personal message to a reporter, you can also, offer like other suggested angles that they can run with, right? So you can say like, we focus on, this being a mother and daughter team, but here's some other things that might be of interest of you. Farron J is from Southern California. She and I know we talked about this on the website, but she also struggled with her own mental health challenges or something like that. So it could be a personal, it could be a profile on her, rather than just a focus on the app. So you can offer different angles within that email.
Got it. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing then that title line would be the place where you can essentially strategically guess what a good angle would be for whomever you are. Okay.
Yeah. So like, let's say for example, okay. So let's go back to Monkey See Do. Let's say for example, a report just comes out from the U.S. Business Administration saying, 10% of businesses in 2022 closed for X number of reasons. And then Monkey See Do can send out a press release saying, Monkey See Do is addressing the needs of small businesses. And then in the email, she can say, Diana can write in the email, you might have seen today that the U.S. Business Administration just released a report saying X, Y, and Z happened. This is what we're doing to address those problems. So I think it can really vary. You can play with it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks. It's super paradigm shifting, because I think I had one impression of what press release's purpose was, but this is kind of broadened it for me. So thanks. Super practical.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I was going to say I was so happy right in the beginning when you were describing how when you write the email to actually put what you want to say into the body of the email, and don't make people click on a bunch of things and try to find things and go down. They just won't do it. They won't do it. I always recommend that the students include a link to their videos. But beyond that, I really love the way that you said that. Now there was a question in the chat as well about sharing those additional, photos and videos and folders with all of their press information in it. What is your recommendation on that? Do you think that should just sort of be like as a supplement, or should they just avoid that altogether?
Yeah, so I really like that recommendation. So I wouldn't attach those photos or anything to the email. I think a cloud folder like on Google Drive would be awesome. And I'll tell you why. Because a lot of digital reporters, a lot of online reporters, they're simply tasked with just posting stories to the web. And if they're doing that, they just want to have access to everything right away. They might not even have time to respond to you. And I've been guilty of that in my life, right? In my role as a journalist. Sometimes, for example, when I was at KPBS, part of my job was posting stories online. Sometimes I wouldn't even respond to the PR person. I would just post their press release online, or write the story, put it online, and then include any photos that they offered me online, because the name of the game was to just get as many stories as online as possible. And you'll see that a lot with, like, if you pay attention to like what's on Business Insider and Forbes, they're constantly just posting a ton of stories just to get those clicks. And they're probably not even responding to a lot of these big name companies, letting them know that their story is live.
Yeah, I think that's, again, great advice. And don't feel bad about not responding to emails. I think all of us right now are underneath our mountain of communications. And so, yeah, it's people know that they want you, so they will absolutely understand. And you've always been great with us. So I have a question from Deanna. She wanted to ask a question about her startup, Monkey See Do. Deanna, you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you. Do you think it's better to focus on like a smaller audience, or maybe or like a larger area when you're writing your press release, like staying like San Diego area, or going like Southern California, or like to your individual town?
So I would tweak the press release to cater to the reporter, right? So from the press release I wrote for Monkey See Do, so it's a San Diego based Monkey See Do. So this press release is geared toward San Diego reporters. If I wanted to focus on, like if I wanted to like pitch like an LA Times reporter, then I might change that headline to Southern California Monkey See Do platform. If I wanted to, go high in the sky and aim for a New York Times reporter, I would just say, Monkey See Do platform helps X number of businesses succeed, or something like that. I would generalize it more.
Yeah, I guess we could start small, like everything we do, right?
Yeah, and you know what is, what I see a lot from clients is that like every client, there's a joke in the PR world about how every client comes to you and their goal is to get on the Today Show. Like if I had a nickel for every time a client told me they wanted to get on the Today Show, I'd be so rich, I would retire. But the reality is that a lot of these national reporters get their stories from local news organizations. So I always say like, Good Morning America, they did a story like a couple years ago about a Girl Scout who made like millions of dollars. They didn't find that Girl Scout in that tiny town in Indiana. It was that tiny town's newspaper that covered it first. And then it got picked up on social. And then like Good Morning America picked it up, right? So there's nothing wrong with starting with local press first and then building up from there.
Yeah, you'll probably have a better chance with it, right?
Totally. Yeah, you'll have a better chance. And then it will also be good to build your credibility too. Like when you pitch that Forbes reporter, right? They'll see that, oh, you were covered by the Union Tribune. I can see that you're a credible business.
Absolutely. Great. So I
have a
see a
question.
few more questions here in the chat. And let's see. Oh, the first was from Miranda. Miranda, did you want to ask out loud, or would you like me to just ask for you?
I just wanted to know what LEAD was short for.
Oh, lead.
I don't know what that is short for. That is just, I don't think it's short for anything. I think it's just the lead sentence. And for whatever reason in journalism, we spell it as LEDE rather than LEAD.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the challenges for me with transitioning to like the PR world is that I'm constantly using like newsroom terms, and none of my coworkers know what I'm talking about because I'm using words like that. But yeah, that's a newsroom term.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So any other questions from the audience?
Yes, yes.
Sheree has her
I do
hand
have a
up.
question.
Oh, yeah,
actually-
sorry.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Sheree, and then afterwards, Timothy.
Okay. I just had a question. Sorry, I'm having connection issues today. But I wanted to know, I'm organizing a social justice rally for this Saturday. Are there any strategies for getting live news media coverage for an event?
So again, I would focus on, so if it's a weekend, so you want to start with Google. Google who are the local weekend producers in San Diego. And you can even, LinkedIn is such a great resource for finding those names. And then from there, you can figure out like what their work emails are. And then it's usually the weekend producers. So if you're going to pitch a TV reporter, just so you know, you want to pitch the producers, because those are the people who are in charge of telling the reporters what they're going to cover. And I know weekend producers, so I would start with sending out a press release today, because weekend producers start on Fridays. And then from there, they start determining what they're going to cover on Saturdays. And unless there's like major breaking news, they're going to stick with what the plan is. In terms of, it being like a social justice rally, I would break down who might the key speakers be, obviously the issues that you care about, why you're hosting the rally on Saturday. Was there something that happened earlier this week to make you want to hold this rally tomorrow?
Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. Timothy, you actually had a question as well?
I did, thank you. So it's unclear to me. Once I have this great press release, what do I do with it? I mean,
So you send it. So yeah. So press releases. So there's different ways to go about it. You'll see like a lot of like big companies, like my company, for example, Plug Power. We automatically just post press releases online to just gain traction, to inform investors and all of that. But for small startup businesses, you want to send those press releases to reporters who you want to cover that story. So one of the questions that I saw in the chat was, how do we find contact information for these reporters? So again, I would go to LinkedIn, I would use Google. So let's go back to the I Am Confident Foundation. So you're going to start with Google. You're going to Google, top healthcare reporters in the US, or you're going to Google mental health reporters. You're going to look on Twitter to see who those main reporters are, who those big name reporters are. Or you can even, type in on Google, like the New York Times healthcare reporter, Washington Post healthcare reporter, and then you're going to look for their email and send them that press release.
Okay, so if I'm in the educational space, do I want to Google education reporters?
Education reporters, exactly. So
Okay.
what kind of education are you covering? Are you focusing on? High tech
business.
Well, I didn't. Could you repeat the question? There was some background noise.
He was just asking. She was just asking what specifically the sector. So it's an educational technology platform specifically designed for teachers, is what he's providing.
Okay, got it. So yeah, you're going to focus on technology reporters, education reporters, higher education reporters, and then just start with the New York Times, for example. Start with any big names. So you're going to type in New York Times education reporter to find who their education reporters are. And they probably have a whole department. And then they break it down to which each reporter covers. And then you're also going to Google San Diego education reporters. And then you'll probably come up like Voice of San Diego or whoever the education reporters are at the UT now. And then you can also look up technology reporters who cover education or technology reporters who cover startups. Those were all the names that I would look up. And another great tip is that reporters are all on Twitter because we're all narcissistic. We love just throwing out thoughts out there. So if you look on Twitter and you Google these names too, you're bound to find their contact information. You can even direct message them. And sometimes that's great too, because reporters love seeing, you love seeing a picture with a name, right? So you're talking to a real person.
Yeah, and who I love all of this advice. It's once again, it goes right back to what we're always encouraging the founders to do, which is build up your network, get your network as expansive as you can, and then start leaning on it. So I see another hand up, David. Did you have a question as well?
I just want to throw in there real quick. A tip that I use is when I'm reading the paper, because I do still read the paper because I'm old school. A lot of times the reporters will have their email address at the end of the article. And when I read an article I like or something that is a subject matter that I think pertains to me, I usually will just throw that into my contact list as a PR contact. And then, I just sort of collect them over time. And over time, you get quite a few of them. So just
that's such a great idea.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You'll still have the email address at the end of the article, and then you just start collecting them.
Okay, so if a reporter posts their email address at the end of an article, is it an invitation to send them a cold email?
Yeah, you can do just about anything you want. I think it's an open
invitation in general, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Respectful.
Okay. Well, I keep reading about the anti-spam laws in the United States, and there's a heavy penalty for spamming.
Right, definitely.
And I don't want to. It's still unclear to me how I send cold emails without them being considered spam.
if it's legitimate
Mhm.
for that
Yeah,
person,
if it's
then,
legitimate.
you know.
And I would also recommend too, like I wouldn't send a reporter more than 2 emails on the same press release or same topic. Because then at that point it becomes spam, it becomes
harassing.
annoying.
So we
Yeah,
have
use
another
them off
question
board.
from, I believe Keely has a question.
Yeah, I do have a question. So when it comes to the social aspect, kind of running off what Tanya was just talking about, building your connection, I've seen when stories end up blowing up, they usually have quite a big following before they get to a bigger platform, like the Today Show, something like that. Like this little girl sold so many cookies.
Yeah.
They are huge on social media before they get to that point. So do you
Yeah.
think it's a smart idea before starting even remotely small to get some following and have a good foundation before initially sending out your first email?
Yeah, totally. I mean, well, I don't think it's a prerequisite to sending out an email. I do think it's important for any business to create a social media following, just because Instagram is huge. I mean, just today we were talking at my company, we were talking with our PR agency about starting an account on TikTok. And we're an energy company, we're an hydrogen company, and we're talking about going on TikTok. So, I mean, just the power of social media is definitely important for businesses. And then one thing I want to talk about too is, David, you reminded me of this this program that we used to work on at Qualcomm, where it was called the Qualcomm Awareness Program, where we would build relationships with reporters with just simply emailing them. For example, like if a noteworthy New York Times reporter who you follow, who covers your industry, announces that they're having a baby, just send them an email and say, congratulations, I just noticed you're having a baby. Like, that's so awesome. Like, what really helped me as a parent was, you know, XYZ. So just helping to build that personal connection or helping to build that relationship with reporters is really noteworthy. And another thing is too, like David, if you're reading an article and it's a really great article, send a note to that reporter and just say, this is a really great article. Thank you so much for writing it. Because I'll tell you, like, reporters get more hate mail than like praise mail.
I do,
Right.
for sure.
And deep down, I think a lot of us, we like getting positive comments. We like getting praise. And so, yeah, that's great. Once again, great advice. So I have another question. I see, Tommy, you've been patiently waiting. Do you want to go ahead? We have just a few minutes left. So
yeah, well, first, a quick comment about the thing that Tim said about spamming. Actually, an anecdote, because I started a flag football team, and for the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to find a sponsor. And the one thing I would say is, and I'm also known for door knocking a lot, like going to people's offices or emailing them or whatever I can do to get a hold of them. But what I would say is that spamming isn't in the activity, it's in the intention. So if you don't give a fuck about the person and you're just sending it to them because they're a name without anything, that's spamming. But if you genuinely think you have value for them and you just want to make sure that you don't miss out on the opportunity to provide value for them, it's not spamming. You're just working hard to try to give them an opportunity. So, you know, that's how I view it.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate your view.
And for the question, I have two. One I'll ask, which I like asking experts, which I call the contrarian question, which is essentially, what is something that maybe non-experts or first-timers think goes into a good press release, or that they, you know, how they should do a good press release? So they think it sounds good or it's a good idea, and maybe intuitively to a novice it sounds like a good idea, but actually is terrible to do. So from your experience, that's the first question. And the second question is, when is it best to do a press release? And a question I was contemplating recently is, do you wait for opportunities or do you create opportunities on which you do press releases? So that's two different questions. You can either answer one or the other, whichever you think will be more valuable.
Let me see if I remember those questions. So the first one is the biggest mistake, and it goes back to my first tip for writing a press release, is that everyone who starts a business thinks that that is newsworthy in itself. And let me tell you, anyone, obviously we know that anyone can start a business, right? You just fill out a form on the California website, you pay the $35 local fee, anybody can start a business. So that is not newsworthy. You know, I have a joke with my, I remember having like a running joke with my girlfriends when I was in college about how, like, every time you go to a bar, every guy who comes up to you tells you that he owns his own business. He's a CEO of his own company. Who cares? Every man's a CEO of his own company. That is not newsworthy. What's newsworthy is the kind of impact you're making, the background as to why you started the business, and any of those big milestones. And then your other question is creating opportunities. So I think it's both, right? So for example, let's say, again, let's go back to, a major organization releases a report saying that, 5 million businesses shut down last year during COVID because of COVID laws. So that would be latching on, that's called newsjacking. You'll be like latching on to another organization's news story. And so Monkey See Do can immediately issue a press release saying, this is what we're doing to address those problems. I'm here as an expert. We have plenty of businesses who are on this platform who can talk about why Monkey See Do is relevant. And then in terms of creating an opportunity, it would be, highlighting some of the businesses that have hit a milestone. So let's say one of the businesses on Monkey See Do is a nail company or something. And they just hit a major milestone because of Monkey See Do's support. So that would be creating opportunity. Monkey See Do can issue a press release saying, we've helped this local business, and it just happens to be, owned by a single dad of like 5 kids or something like that. And then you can tell that story.
Yeah, I once again love it. The storytelling is a really big component of being a successful entrepreneur, being able to tell those stories and get people interested. So we have only time for one more question here. And I know that Kristen has been waiting patiently. Kristen, did you want to go ahead and answer or ask next?
Yes, it's a 2-part question, but it's super fast. Are there any analytics you've seen that show kind of the right size for a press release for eye glance purposes? Meaning, if you go 6 paragraphs in length, it's less likely to be viewed than 3 paragraphs. Is there any analytics to that extent? And then I can ask the next question real quick.
Yeah, so in journalism or in PR, we recommend anywhere between 500 and 700 words. You don't want to go over on that because you lose interest. You lose the interest of the reader after that.
Perfect. Okay. And then annually, are there any events out there that exist as opportunities, networking opportunities to connect businesses to local journalists, reporters?
So, so there's the Society of Professional Journalists, and they have a San Diego chapter, so you can Google that. And then there's a San Diego Press Club. There's the Asian American Journalists Association. There's the Native American Journalists Association. I think there's like an LGBT one focus as well, but they all have mixers and events that are open to the public. And they also sometimes host workshops focused on supporting businesses. So I would look into those. I think there's like one big like summer mixer that all the organizations participate in, completely open to the public. And if you're going to support a local journal or a journalist organization, that's really big for journalists who, as you know, are often grilled for the work they do.
Thank you. So actually, while we're out of time now, the last thing that I wanted to ask is, I know that you said that you could make available those press releases to the startups. Would it be okay with you if I shared with some of the other students here the information from your workshop today?
Yeah, totally. And if any of you want to draft a press release and want a second eye on it, or want to jump on like a 30-minute Zoom call with me, we can live edit it together and I can offer some suggestions. And you can get my contact through Tanya, Crystal. But yeah, more than happy to help.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. So I'll, thank you for being here. We're all really appreciative. And would you like to leave us with one final thought, Hua, before we stop the recording and let you go on with your weekend?
No, I'm really grateful for being here and for meeting all of you. I was really inspired, watching all these videos, and I wish I had time to write press releases on all of them. But again, more than happy to help in any way possible. And thank you, Tanya, so for running the show.
Of course. Okay. Thank you. We'll do it again, everyone. We'll do it again. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you at the next workshop. And don't forget, we have a really big grand opening coming up because we're finally actually going to be in a real location on campus in September. I'll send all of that information out, but let's start spreading the word on that as well, everyone. And the workshop recording will be available for all of you tomorrow on our YouTube channel, so you can check it out there. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone
Bye.
for coming. Take care. Bye, everyone.